And thank you everyone for being here. Truly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. It's going to be a great session today. We're going to learn a lot from our experts, and I personally cannot wait. So without further ado, it's about 12:02. I'm sure people will keep trickling in, but we'll get started for those who are here. Thanks again. We are so delighted that you took the time out of your busy day to join us for what we feel right now is a red hot topic. Financial wellness. Financial wellness is at the top of everyone's mind in one form or another. And clearly you're here because you know how the stress your employees face has been accumulating over the years. More recently, the inflation that has been red hot, the rising interest rates, the high cost of living, and so much more have been on their mind. And all this financial stress, as you know, spills over into mental health, physical stress, and ultimately less productive employees. Now, this is costing you, it's hurting employees, and it's affecting your bottom line. So where do we start? So a little bit about this event. This event is organized by MoneyWise Workplaces, the leading provider of comprehensive workplace financial wellness programs in Canada. The panel today will seek to show that financial wellness in the workplace is the most valuable yet least understood employee benefit. I am your host for today. I am super excited to be here. My name is John Ponyereka. I'm VP at MoneyWise, and I'm thrilled to guide you through this enlightening conversation. I would like to say I'm your co-host because I want you to participate. I want to hear from you. I want this to be a two-way exchange. Every question that you want to pose, I'll try to get it in front of our panel as much as I can. So I want you to get your voice heard, participate, put your questions in the chat. There might be some new concepts you're hearing. If you are confused by any part of that, please let us know in the chat. Our colleague Angela is on the call that she's moderating for us. Thank you, Angela. And she will make sure that none of the questions that you pose will go unanswered. Now, if you like your camera and mic turned on during the question and answer period that we have at the end, we will try to accommodate, but no promises. But do not wait to ask your question. Drop it in the chat and we will get to it. If you leave in the middle of the recording, we'll be sending follow-up emails with the recording in it so that you can listen with your colleague, with your boss, or with other professionals that would find this very important. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our three experts. They are eagerly waiting and looking forward to engaging with you today. And I thank them individually because they took their time out of their busy day and they each bring a unique perspective. They cover areas such as financial literacy, behavioral economics, and financial well-being. So first and foremost, I am excited to introduce to you Yanni Vlachos from the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, often referred to as FCAC. Now, to make sure that I don't bite my tongue, I am going to refer to them as FCAC, and I hope, Yanni, you can allow that. Yanni is a financial literacy leader and wellness advocate, retirement savings and pension specialist, and has a rich background in employee financial wellness research. Welcome, Yanni. Next, we are thrilled to have David Lewis, leading the behavioral side of employee wellness research. David is the president of BE Works Research Institute. Their work brings leaders together to tackle the world's most pressing behavioral challenges. I'm sure behaviors around money could count as pressing. Personally seeing how I do with my money and reading the research around money stresses that we're experiencing. David has a diverse background coming from Wall Street, Bay Street, and a C-suite role in banking. Welcome, David. Glad to have you. And bringing a practical approach to the perspective of financial wellness is our co-host, I would say, and founder, the reason we're all here, of MoneyWise Workplaces, Kelly Keane. She has been in the financial industry for over 25 years, and for the last 18 years, she has been on a mission to make Canadians feel good about money. I would say a tall task she has, but this is a great start. She's a best-selling author of 11 books and a well-known media personality. So welcome everyone to our panel, and the panel, welcome to everyone.
Great to be here.
Yanni, David, welcome. All right, so a little bit of structure. I'm going to try to make this a little bit more fun for our panel by going through different paces and different rounds. We'll have 5 rounds of questions, and we won't wait any longer. We'll just get started. And somehow out of the draw, Yanni, you are number 1. Congratulations. All right. So can you tell us a bit more about yourself, your passion for financial literacy, what keeps you up at night when it comes to financial resilience of the Canadian household? And I know FCAC cares about this a fair bit, including work that you have done on making sure that you're systematically approaching this. So feel free to take that question and make it your own, but tell us a bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, JP. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. For those who haven't heard about FCAC, we're a federal government agency whose mandate is to protect the rights and interests of consumers of financial products and services. So we fulfill this mandate in 2 ways. First, as an independent regulator, supervising and monitoring the research practices of federally regulated institutions such as banks, and second, by strengthening the financial literacy of Canadians. So as the second part of our mandate, we work with organizations and engage stakeholders from across the country through various initiatives, which includes Canada's Financial Literacy Month and leading the National Strategy on Financial Literacy, Make Change That Counts, so that we can collectively support Canadians in building their financial resilience. FCAC also conducts research, policies, and develops free, unbiased resources, information, programs, and tools to help Canadians make informed financial decisions, build their financial resilience, and know their rights and responsibilities as consumers of financial products and services. So a little bit about me. I'm a proud dad of 2. My educational background includes an MBA with a specialization in HR management and specializations that include pension plans and retirement savings. I have a lot of experience with financial education in the workplace. Prior to joining the agency, I led and project managed many financial education and communication initiatives for both defined contribution pension plans and defined benefit pension plan members, and also retirement savings plans members like group RSPs. And those from topics ranging from getting people to understand and see the value of their plan, to saving, to budgeting, investment options, and to pre-retirement seminars, using a variety of delivery mechanisms. I also wrote a paper on how to effectively engage pension plan members through plan design, communications, and education, which included behavioral science concepts. And to answer your question, JP, that's where my passion for financial literacy, education, behavioral finance, and economics came from. But it also stems from a strong desire that I have to help people, which is why I'm so passionate about the work I do. Financial literacy is important because it comes into play pretty much every day as we make financial decisions and transactions. In terms of what keeps me up at night, pertaining that, I would say, and this is true for most of my colleagues at the agency, is how to best reach Canadians to help them increase their financial knowledge, feel more confident, and nudge and enable behaviors that will lead to better outcomes when it comes to money matters. And this is especially true, as you mentioned before, with today's current economic situation, and also knowing that so many Canadians are struggling with their finances, feeling financially stressed and overwhelmed in some cases. I just wanted to conclude with multiple research and surveys like FP Canada's consistently show that money matters are the biggest source of stress for Canadians, and that's more than work, personal relationships, and health. And that was even true when we were going through the pandemic. And this is something that we're seeing consistently in the media and with our current economic situation.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Yanni, and thank you so much, everyone in the chat. I see there's a lively back and forth going on in the chat. Yanni's information is in the chat. If you want to connect with him, please do. He's wonderfully taken the time to speak with us, and we'll get to know more about him and his suggestions later on. And now on to our other panelist, David. David, I know that the question is, tell us a bit about yourself, but as you know, we are trying to move Canadians to take some steps towards some financial wellness, a better financial wellness, let's say. And it's been a whirlwind. So tell us a little bit more of what keeps you up at night from a behavioral side point of view, and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, thanks, JP. I worked for many years in the wealth management industry, both in Toronto as well as New York. And what attracted me to that was an interest in capital markets and helping people make sense of what's really a complicated domain and help them make better financial decisions. I originally came from a quantitative background, both finance and economics, and as a chartered financial analyst, I always assumed when developing and marketing investment products that if we could choose and create the best product and the perfect marketing communications and campaign, people would choose product and services that helped enhance their financial well-being. What I found was that people often made decisions that worked against their own best interest, like not paying off credit cards, or worse, keeping a balance on a credit card at a high rate, while also keeping money in a savings account at a low rate, or not taking advantage of employer matching programs for retirement savings. I mean, that's free money. Or they'd contribute to their workplace pension, but leave the money sitting in cash for years where it won't grow or may even decline in value due to inflation. I decided that I wanted to understand better how and why people made these decisions, and that's why I became a behavioral economist. And there's been over 50 years of study in behavioral economics, with multiple Nobel Prizes awarded in the field as the study has grown and more has been discovered. Behavioral economics really offers a deep understanding of the economic, psychological, social, and environmental factors that influence how and why we make decisions and why we act the way we do. But it also offers insights for more effective strategies to change beliefs and change choices and behavior for the better, to create better outcomes. The more I studied behavioral economics, the more I realized it would help people make better decisions. So I joined behaviours, which is a global management consulting firm specializing in applying behavioral economics to business and policy challenges. We've worked on everything from managing credit in financial services to medication adherence in healthcare to food waste and energy conservation in the domain of sustainability. And what links all of these is finding innovative approaches to long-standing difficult problems using a deep understanding of human decision-making to help people make better decisions. At beworks, I had the beworks Research Institute, where we conduct applied research aimed at solving these financial decision-making challenges. And we've published research on everything from how people can improve their credit to how we can encourage more people to seek and follow professional financial advice.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David. Thank you, and keep on going in the chat. I like the conversation that is going there. Lastly, so Kelly King, we have heard about financial stress. We've heard about behavioral approaches to otherwise simple options. You've spoken with millions of Canadians over your career through your work in the media, outreach to your multiple best-selling books, and speaking across the country, and now with the MoneyWise Workplace Program. What keeps you up at night as it relates to Canadian financial wellness at this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. And it literally keeps me up at night, as you know, JP. And that's why I reach out to Yanni and David a lot to figure out how we can actually move the needle with Canadians. So there's two things that keeps me up at night. Is number one, that there is still this shame and this embarrassment when it comes to financial issues, especially, we talk about money issues. It's not really the money issue that's usually the shame and the embarrassment. It's the lack of money issue, like David was talking about with the credit card debt and things of that sort. There was a time where probably everyone on this panel is too young, but they used to whisper the word cancer in the 1960s. And now today we run for the cure and fight for the cure and do all of that. We would never put that shame and embarrassment on a mental health issue or a physical issue. Yet when it comes to money matters, there's still this taboo. So that's number one. Number two, you were saying, JP, that it's simple. I actually think it's complex for a lot of people, and I think the industry has made it very complex. RSP versus TFSA versus RESP, it's overwhelming. And you take all of that together and people move, I think, especially during COVID, into apathy. and inertia. So that's what's keeping me up at night, and why I have these conversations and wanted to have this panel discussion, selfishly for myself as well, with David and Yanni, is to figure out how do we move the needle? Like, how do we actually get people to realize that, yeah, it is a little bit complex. There actually might be 10 steps that underline your simple to-do list of doing a will or paying off your credit card. But if you can build more confidence and knowledge and skill to tackle those things, how are you going to feel on the other side of it? And, you know, we've got a lot of thin influencers and we have a lot of mistrust in the industry. How do we build that trust? And I look to someone, love him or hate him, but I look to someone like the success of Dr. Oz that, you know, took really complex, overwhelming subjects like health and would say, you know, in his show, like, do this today. This is why olives are important, and go buy the olives and eat them. Yeah. And he just like distilled it down so simply for people. So I don't know if there's any research out there yet, but David and Yanni, maybe we could work on it one day. Like, you know, Rob Carrick from the Globe and Mail and I have had these conversations a lot, like, you know, nudges, like just open up an RSP and a TFSA, even if you don't have the money to invest. Like that one thing ticks that off your box. And so how do we do that? And that's the great work that that our other panelists are working on right now. So happy to be part of this. And that is what is keeping me up at night.
That's amazing. And I can feel the passion with our panelists. So this is going to be fantastic. I want to acknowledge the activity in the chat. Thank you, Remy. Thank you, Tim. And thank you, Karen, for your question. Karen has an excellent question that I'm going to ask before round 3. So we're going to go into the second round. Kelly, you were mentioning the research that is being done, and I'll go back to Yanni. Financial wellness at FCAC, you've done research there, and even prior to joining FCAC, and that work has been consumed by stakeholders around the world. Can you tell us more about it and what you found and what resources you have created?
Absolutely. My main portfolio at the agency has been financial wellness in the workplace since the program's inception in 2017. So how we got into this is basically FCAC held public consultations in support of the development of the first national strategy for financial literacy, Count Me in Canada. That revealed that the most effective way to reach Canadians with financial literacy tools and training is where they're at and where they spend time. So as mentioned earlier, we also know that many Canadians are stressed when it comes to money matters. So those were the reasons. So based on this, we determined that leveraging the workplace was an effective channel to reach the widest audience of Canadian adults of all ages and backgrounds with the broadest range of economic circumstances as they navigate a period where they're going to be making many financial decisions. So the objectives of our workplace financial wellness initiative is to create awareness about the importance of financial wellness in the workplace to both employers and employees, and especially for employers to see that they have a role to play in the financial wellness of their employees, provide them with tools and resources, and leveraging behavioral science where we can to strengthen the knowledge, capacity, and skills and behaviors of working Canadians that will lead to greater financial resilience and improve their financial well-being, which is in line with the goals from our national financial literacy strategy. So we've done a lot since we started this journey in 2017. Just an important part of our strategic activity plan was the formation of a financial literacy working group in the workplace. And it was composed of 11 participants from strategically selected national and provincial levels from public sector, industry associations, consumer and professional associations, which included the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada, l'Autorité des marchés financiers in Quebec, and the New Brunswick Financial Consumer Services. So the working group's main deliverable was to help us develop a best practices framework, which then became the Financial Wellness in the Workplace web resource that can be found on canada.ca. And I believe a link will be shared with you of that. So the Financial Wellness in the Workplace web resources was developed using a holistic approach, and we built it on 3 components. So it was research-based. We looked at academic papers, white papers from across North America, Europe, UK, and Australia. And we also submitted questions to a national survey to one of our workplace working group members We gave them some questions that they could ask in their survey that reached about 5,000 Canadian workers. So they're basically on questions like financial stress and the impacts that financial stress had upon their work, and also their preferences regarding financial education in the workplace. Then the second component was evidence-based. So that's where our working group members really contributed their knowledge, experience, and expertise. And then we also conducted a series of pilots to test the components that we found in the research. So the financial wellness resource, the financial wellness web resource is free. It provides a roadmap and strategies based on best practices for employers and organizations who are committed to improving the financial health and wellness of their employees. And it helps guide employers in all stages of their planning. So that's what it is. It's really a roadmap based on this robust research and pilots and experience. So for organizations that are starting from scratch or even thinking of offering a financial wellness program in the workplace, we have a section that provides convincing arguments on how financial wellness in the workplace makes sense and how it's going to benefit their organization and employees. For organizations that are looking how to build a financial education program, we provide sections with information on how to plan, build, communicate, and deliver and evaluate a workplace financial wellness program. And then for organizations who are simply looking for tools and resources, well, they'll find engaging materials, links to workshops, both facilitated, self-driven, infographics, checklist videos, interactive quizzes, tools and calculators, and more to help employers enhance their offering. And there's also a section specifically designed for employees where employers can simply direct their employees to that section of their web resource on their intranet. It's information of resources by topic. There's some videos, interactive quizzes, and FCAC's online tools and calculators that includes our interactive online budget planner that I wanted to highlight, and we'll also be sending you a link to those things. It's important to note that this resource on Canada.ca is just version 1.0, and we continue to work and improve upon it. We've also worked with the OECD and its International Network for Financial Education, INFE, chaired the working group on financial education in the workplace, and contributed to the development of the policy handbook on financial education in the workplace, which we'll be sharing with you today as well in a PDF format. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yanni, and very insightful information. And I want to pass this on to David in this way. So BE Works and MoneyWise Workplaces partnered up for some cutting edge research, and you have a new paper, Building Financial Wellbeing Using Behavioral Science Every Step of the Way. Can you tell us a little bit more about this research and why employers should take heed? Of course, feel free to speak on the research that you have done before that and resources you have created. And there's something that just came in the chat, whether there's a difference between pre-COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 behaviors that you might be seeing. So I'll pass it on to David. And if Yanni, you missed out on the COVID-19 question, feel free to answer it on the round 3 when I get back to you.
Yeah, thanks. I'll hold off on the COVID-19 question. There is a lot of emergent research on it, and it'll kind of fit into some of the other comments that I'm going to make.
Thank you.
I started in financial services. My first job was actually in a training program at a bank, and I was a teller. And what I found was, number one, that I actually enjoyed helping people make decisions, make better decisions. I actually really felt like I could improve their financial outcomes, which was very satisfying. I enjoyed it. But I also learned just how complicated financial decision making really is, needlessly so. As Kelly was saying before, all the acronyms, RSP, RESP, TFSA, and we almost do it deliberately, but it makes it just so difficult. And I also, I didn't know it at the time, but financial decision making is a critical determinant of overall well-being. It's actually been shown, so the impact of financial well-being is comparable in the impact to the combined effects of job satisfaction, relationship satisfaction, and physical health. So that's an important point, combined. The financial well-being is so important to actually creating an overall well-being for people. And for me, behavioral economics offers great insights into financial decision making and how you can support that better well-being. You know, as humans, we try to be rational and calculating and analytical and goal-oriented and consistent and predictable. And that's referred to as being rational. That's a specific definition. But we often fail because in the end, we're humans. We're not programmable computers after all. We're just humans. We try our best. And as a result of being humans, we're subject to biases and heuristics. And the effects of these biases and heuristics are sufficiently well studied that one of the founders of behaviours, Dan Ariely, describes human decision-making as being predictably irrational. For example, simply telling people that they should eat healthy and exercise doesn't really work. Almost everybody knows that they should eat healthy and exercise, but why don't they? And the reason is that ice cream is delicious and exercising makes us sweaty and tired. The present pain seems much greater than the future benefits of being healthy. And in behavioral science, that's called present bias. And it's non-conscious, meaning we don't really notice that we're doing it. And we also use something called heuristics, which are mental shortcuts. It's part of the way we think. We kind of have to, because if we didn't use heuristics or shortcuts, if we analyzed every decision, we'd never get out of the house in the morning. We'd still be figuring out what socks to wear, what shoes to wear, what cereal to eat. So we take shortcuts. And it's okay for inconsequential decisions like socks or shoes or cereal. But the problem is it's non-conscious, and we often do it for decisions that are actually complex, risky, and consequential, where we really should spend more time thinking than we do. As an example, if you go and get a drink, they offer small, medium, and large. We often choose medium for no real reason. It doesn't even matter what the actual volume of the cup is. So they've done experiments where they change the volume of the cup such that small is actually medium and medium is large and large is extra large, and people still pick medium. And it's called the Goldilocks effect or the extremeness aversion. It's just an easy rule of thumb. You don't want to think about it. I don't want small, it might be too small. I don't want large, it might be too large, so I'm going to pick the middle. And that may seem innocuous, but the problem is we do that for complex, risky, consequential decisions as well without being aware of it. So at BWorks, we did research and showed that people actually pick mutual funds that way. We spend too little time thinking analytically and just kind of pick the middle, right? Not too safe, not too risky, but that affects our long-term financial well-being. And the challenge then, if you want to influence financial well-being, how and where is the best place to deliver it? And Yanni sort of talked about this. Behavioral economics offers some solutions. We know, for example, that scarcity mindset, and this is something where COVID comes in because COVID-19 caused increasing scarcity mindset. When people have resource constraints, whether it's time or social interaction or money, they tend to have a thinking style that's described as scarcity mindset. You can actually see the cognitive, attitudinal, and behavioral changes that result from it. We tend to focus more on immediate needs and gratification at the expense of long-term planning. We have a reduced ability to think, and you see degraded performance on cognitive tasks. And we have diminished control over impulses, like spending on immediate pleasures at the expense of long-term goals. So scarcity mindset really does work against us. And it doesn't help that there's too much information and so little time to consider it, right? That causes something called choice overload, where the result is decision deferral and procrastination. There's too many choices, so we simply don't decide. We also fall prey to something called present bias. Today's here and now, and the future seems far away. It's psychologically distant and therefore less real to us. And this is compounded by optimism bias. We have an irrational expectation that things will eventually work themselves out on their own, sort of an ostrich effect where you stick your head in the sand and it's going to work out. It might surprise you to know that there was a study done and 34% of Canadians think that lottery winnings will pay for part of their retirement. And to make it worse, 14% say that lottery winnings will be a substantial portion of their income in retirement. And that is clearly overly optimistic. We also have something called atypicality neglect, where when we plan to save, we always forget about the unexpected things like car repairs or home repairs or things that pop up. And the reality is they pop up every month with surprising regularity. So if you look at the effects, all of these heuristics and biases, we clearly need help with financial decision making. So where is that to come from? How are we going to get that help? How are we going to get to someone to tell us, you're really engaging in the Goldilocks effect here. You're picking the middle. Let's sit down and think a little more. Where does that come from? Well, as Kelly said, trust in financial institutions is declining, and trust in advisors is low and also declining. The behaviours Research Institute, we did a study with Manulife in 2021, and we found that fewer people have an advisor and follow the advice than those who either deliberately ignore everything their advisor tells them or don't have an advisor. So only 13.2% have an advisor and follow the advice. 5.3% have an advisor and ignore everything they say, and 16% don't have an advisor. So if you add that all up, more people, 21.3%, either don't have an advisor or ignore all of the advice. And that leaves them at the mercy of those heuristics and biases, and that leads to poor financial decisions and reduced overall financial well-being and overall well-being. And workplace wellness is a great solution to that. The information is timely and relevant. When you sit down and think about your pay and your benefits and perhaps insurance and the pension, you're in the right frame of mind. And it can also be a good habit forming practice because you do it regularly, at a periodic or annual sign up, and that forms a good discipline. So being in the right frame of mind is important. But I think there's also, Yanni sort of alluded to this as well, we don't have as much persuasion awareness with an employer. Our employer isn't trying to sell us something and make money off of us. They're offering benefits. It's their interest to enhance the well-being of their employees. Employees are the greatest resource that they have. And so they're willing to actually offer these programs and these support when people may not trust banks or financial institutions or advisors. The employer can really step in and provide that support and encouragement and encourage better financial decision making. And that's why these sort of programs for wellness offered in the workplace offer a really solid solution to, degraded financial decision making and poor financial outcomes.
Amazing. It's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much, David. I truly appreciate that answer. I want to acknowledge that Sumit and Karen and Angela, who are participating in the chat, I want to let you know, please put your questions in the chat. We will get to them. We'll try our best to get to them if I can speak as fast as I can humanly manage. So Kelly, you have put together different coalitions to tackle this thing. I know you work with CPA Canada, FCAC, now behaviours Research, and you have this brand new white paper. What are you trying to accomplish with MoneyWise workplaces, and what are the resources you have developed? I'll just cut it there.
Yeah. Well, all these organizations are so important. FCAC, I was on the first National Steering Committee for Financial Literacy back in 2014, I believe, Yanni, I could be wrong on that. Folks like David at behaviours, like taking what everyone else is doing, and I've had one job the last 18 years, and that is to speak very clearly about complex financial matters, try to make them fun, make them digestible, and take what everyone else has worked so hard to do. And the FCAC, for everyone on this call, has phenomenal information. I mean, there is not a financial question out there that the FCAC does not have great information on: tools, calculators, resources. But it's just, it's not enough to know, because anyone can Google anything today, watch a YouTube video. It's to know how. So for example, I love one of the calculators, and in MoneyWise workplaces, we use a lot of the FCAC calculators, is, for example, if you had a $10,000 balance on a credit card at 24% interest, only paying the minimum payment. David, talk about just inertia, not doing anything. Nobody's screaming in your face that you should pay more than the minimum. But if you were consuming our program, you would know that if you did just one simple thing, found no more money, and called up your bank and moved into a lower interest rate credit card at 12% or 12.99%, you'd save over $4,000 on the life of paying down that credit card. Simple calculator that the FCAC has. So Angela, I know you were asking in the question, and the panelists will answer this as well. Your question was about, if someone is just literally has, like, they're making minimum wage, how do you help move the needle for them with financial wellness and resiliency? Well, definitely their debt and paying attention to it. But because there's that shame and embarrassment that I talked about at the beginning, we don't even want to look at it. Oh, the minimum payments being asked, that's all that is required. We have Eric Montero here from Sun Life on, I see. Sun Life has talked extensively about the fact that $3 to $4 billion a year is left on the table every single year by employees not leaning into their matching programs or their wellness accounts. Their employers are doing their best to offer RSP matching and pensions and things of that sort. But like David said, they're either not engaging or they're just sitting in cash. They're not utilizing it effectively. JP and I hosted a private webinar yesterday. Andrea Henson is on from Sutton Benefits. We were talking to her clients yesterday, and they were sharing what's on the hearts and minds of their employees. And it was exactly these conversations, cashing out of RSPs. Oh, that's heartbreaking for me, right? Because, not only do you think you're taking $1,000 out, you're not getting $1,000 in your hands. You may be paying more tax. Like, there's ways and probably options that exist before doing that. They were also sharing with us, how many employees are literally leaving for another $1 an hour. And that's costing our economy. National Payroll Institute and the Wellness Lab, Canadian Financial Wellness Lab, has estimated that to be costing our economy over $50 billion. And you, the employer on this call, a lot of employers here, that at the end of the day, this financial stress, this inertia, all of the heuristics that David was talking about leads to a less productive employee and a more stressful citizen of this planet. So that's our mission at MoneyWise Workplaces, is to make it fun and engaging and to really live and breathe. And last time I had a drink with David, he talked about, being in the principal's office. Have you ever sat outside the principal's office? We all were there and had that awful feeling. I think that's how we feel a lot of times when we don't know what to do with our finances. And like David said, wasn't it better when you had a friend sitting there with you? So that's what my mission is to be a money buddy in video and long form articles and also in one-on-one questions. So thank you for that question, JP.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer. That was a great answer. And I would like to say it was eye-opening to talk about employee retention and how that is being challenged by the lack of financial wellness. So I would like to acknowledge a few more people participating. Cameron, Eric, thank you so much for participating. Keep putting your questions in the chat and we will try to get to them. I'll go back to Yanni, and at this point, we are going to try and do some form of a speed round for 2 rounds. Using any of your pilots that you have done, the studies, the excellent studies and research that you have done, what are the certain gaps and barriers you see when it comes to financial wellness in the workplaces?
Thank you for the question. Basically, I'll highlight some of the things that we found, but the first one is, and I think a very important one, is that a one-size approach doesn't work. So a one-size-fits-all approach does not work. So each organization, just as each employee, has different needs and challenges. So the resource that I mentioned offers detailed information and tips that can be tailored to the size and nature of the organization and its specific needs. Organizations also may think that these kind of programs, like financial wellness programs, they have to have resources, they cost a lot of money, or it takes time. But I think like what we do in the resource is kind of show that basically a workplace program can be implemented no matter the size, budget, or resources. It doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be expensive, and employers don't have to do everything all at once. We've also addressed different challenges and obstacles that might prevent employers from offering workplace programs and some strategies to overcome them. So what we've identified, looking at all of the research and basically the pilot speaking to employers, is that some of the obstacles that that we face is basically convincing employers that they have a role to play in financial well-being of their employees. We can make a parallel. I think David alluded to that, and Kelly as well. If we look at mental health in the workplace a few years ago, mental health was taboo, and it still is, but I mean, there's been a lot of progress over the last few years with Bell Let's Talk and all those kind of things. So mental health in the workplace has taken on a greater role. And I think since the pandemic as well, the pandemic has shown to employers the importance of mental wellness in the workplace. And as we mentioned before, the 4 pillars of well-being are financial, mental, physical, and social. So if the financial is not up to par, if there's issues there, then it's going to affect everything else. So that's why financial wellness in the workplace is important. Some of the other obstacles that we've identified and addressed is the lack of time, money, and other resources. Some employers have mentioned lack of interest among participants, and then logistical challenges. So we've addressed those in the web resource. And then I think that the key thing that comes out everywhere in the research through our pilots and everything else is that a financial workplace program must be based on the needs of employees in order to be successful. So this is a really important step because you're more likely to engage learners and have an impact when the subject matter is tailored to their interests and what they view as important. So to make it easy for employers, we have on the financial wellness in the workplace web resource, we have a survey template that employers can use to better identify and understand the financial challenges, needs, and interests of their staff. It also includes a pre-written survey preamble to assist employers when sending this out to employees, and it could be modified as well. So, with our pilots, we gathered a lot of information. There's many lessons and key takeaways, but these are just a few that I want to highlight. So consistently, we've mentioned before, money matters are a significant source of stress, and this comes up all the time. So that's one thing. I think the other which is what we found is once employers and employees learned about financial stress, its impact on health and in the workplace, and then about the possibility of having financial education in the workplace, there was a lot of interest and strong preference from employees to have training at work. Most of them stated that they'd be more interested in education on different subjects and that they were looking for their employers for support. And I think there was a survey a few years ago by Sun Life Financial that showed that this is something that employees are looking for their employers for support regarding workplace financial wellness. So that confirms those findings as well. The other thing too is that to elaborate on financial education offered during work hours can be an more effective way to reach people where they're at and where they're most attentive. It's very difficult for people or for working adults to participate in financial wellness programs outside of work hours due to other commitments, right? So we're competing with life and everything else. So you may have great intentions to attend a seminar or something like that after work, but the reality is a lot of times it's more difficult. So if employers can allow their employees time during the workday to educate themselves on financial wellness, then that's going to show that they'll recognize that their employer is investing in their well-being, that they're serious about it, which in turn creates greater retention and also helps employers for attracting employees to their organization.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that answer. I appreciate it. For everyone listening, I want you to go in the chat and let me know on a scale of 1 to 5 how important you think financial wellness is. And as we are wrapping up, I'm going to have to go a little bit fast, so I'll pass it on to David. In a few short sentences, where do you see the gaps, or as we used to call it in the corporate world, areas of opportunity as far as financial wellness is concerned in the workplace?
Well, thanks, JP. We do a lot of research, as I said earlier, and I can confirm that what Yanni is talking about, we've done the research to find that, and to find ways over it. One of the one of the biggest challenges that we see is something called illusory superiority. People underestimate the complexity or overestimate their knowledge and tend to procrastinate. And they say, I'll get around to it and, I'll figure it out. But, a great example is if you ask people, do you know how the chains and gears work on a 10-speed bicycle? They say, yeah, of course I do. Then you say, okay, well, draw it. And then they go, oh, wait a minute, that's a lot more complex than I thought. So one of the barriers to taking advantage of these programs is the assumption that we can manage and muddle through ourselves and that we don't need help. But in fact, we do. A great example as well, to something Kelly said earlier, there is no shame. So Markowitz, who's one of the founders of a very advanced theory called capital asset pricing model, which predicts the price of assets on capital markets, admitted that he just took his university pension plan and he divided it evenly in all the funds that were available. It's called the 1/n heuristic. And he said, I'll get around to it. So if a guy, and by the way, Markowitz won a Nobel Prize for capital asset pricing model. So if someone that, sophisticated and brilliant and knowledgeable also falls prey to these sorts of things, then all of us do. So we can all use help. And one of those, one of the challenges there is debiasing that illusory superiority. We ran an experiment where you just give people a simple test, a simple 10-question quiz on financial literacy, and you don't even need to mark it or provide the right answers. Just going and thinking about the questions, people go, wow, maybe I do need someone to help me with all these acronyms and all this complication. And we ran that experiment I personally ran that experiment in a room full of pension benefit consultants. And they all admitted afterwards that they had overestimated their knowledge and probably could have used more insights and advice than they were willing to admit beforehand. So I think that's an important one, is getting rid of that illusory superiority and the pride, and just admitting that, all of us need help. Even the greatest athletes have coaches. So these are the sorts of programs that can help us all.
Amazing. And I'm a big fan of LeBron James. He's a man who has accomplished a lot of things, but he always has a coach. Never played 1 year without a coach. And I'm going to pass it on to Kelly. You're talking to Canadians every day, including some CEOs and HR managers, benefits providers. And I know even yesterday, big shout out to Angela and Andrea and the rest of the gang. We had a very good discussion. What are you seeing as the challenges that can be at least alleviated and the gaps, opportunities for wellness?
Yeah, and I think it's the blind spots, right? It's a lot about what David and Yanni were just saying, and Markowitz, huge fan. And what I found too that was fascinating with Harry Markowitz was, even though he developed the efficient frontier, and as you said, David, a Nobel Prize winner, he actually admitted that he couldn't take as much risk as his risk profile said that he needed to take. And and that's much more advanced than the average Canadian even realizes. So the whole point of MoneyWise Workplaces is to help people, realize what they don't even know that they need to do. I was talking about before about moving into a lower interest rate credit card, how that can free up money. Eric, you asked in the chat about, what can be done to increase employer adoption, but also, at the end of the day, it's not just the employer adoption, how do we get the employees to pay attention? And they don't know what they don't know, and they just keep going back to the old, well, I just don't have any money. It's high inflation. It's, there's always something. It doesn't matter when we look at the cycle, there's always a money issue and a reason why we don't do it. But there is thousands of dollars of money that can be found or earned. And that's what we're really excited about doing. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And make sure you're networking in the chat. You have about 9 minutes. You're networking in the chat. You're taking some notes. I'm going to try to bring some audience questions. And this one has been asked. It was the first question. So thank you, Karen, for being so patient. And this is to do with youth. We all seem to love advising youth, especially because we don't have to take their advice. So I wanted to throw it to our panel, starting with Yanni, David, and then Kelly. You can follow up, or maybe a minute each. A few people, Karen notes that there's a gap in financial literacy and understanding from the youth that might be setting them up for a challenging period. I mean, if they have a 30-year career, let's say there's more hope than some of us. what solutions do you see for educating and enabling them for a better financial future? And that also connects to the question that I believe Cameron asked about generations, X, Y, Z, and millennials. And are there different suggestions or nuggets that you might give to them? So 60 seconds apiece, and good luck, because I know that's short. Yanni, you can go first.
Yeah, in terms of youth, it depends what we're talking about. Are we talking about university students? Are we talking about high school level? Or
I would say new professionals.
Oh, new professionals.
The
Okay.
fresh
Well,
entry into the market.
yes, okay, thank you. Well, that's for new professionals. That's the thing. It's paying off student debt. It could be, you know, and so those are kind of the things that when you're assessing the employee needs, you'll be able to see as an employer, right? And by using that template, I believe that's one of the, you do have that question. And okay, thank you. So when it comes to high school, I agree, like it should be in curriculum and stuff. However, we don't, there's a lot of, we have some initiatives at FCAC, which is called Chatter High, and to target or provide financial education to high school kids, particularly girls. But when it comes to the workplace for young professionals, we really need to assess their needs. So, and a lot of times that's what it is. It's saving to buying up a first home, those kinds of things. So by assessing the needs of your employees, you'll be able to see what it is exactly they need. And that kind of answers the generational question as well. So like it's very important, I guess, for people nearing retirement that they get pre-retirement seminars to help them, but not a year before they retire, but at least 5 or 10 years away from retirement, to kind of help them on the way in their planning. So, and then for Gen Xers, and there's a lot of other things as well that applies to them. So, and that might be they have, you know, paying for their kids' tuition and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of topics, all sorts of great things that are offered, that are out there to cater to those various needs. But it all starts with assessing the needs of your employees.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I was going to start playing the Grammy music. David, it's your turn.
Thanks, JP. You know, one comment I'd make first is that there's often assumption that people in demographic groups share similar attitudes and behaviors. Gen Zs are not all identical, and neither are boomers. What you really have to look is that at their attitudes and behaviors. And one of the things you see oftentimes in segments of, you know, what we'll call, what's often used in demographics as Gen X or Gen Z, they actually have less trust, and they tend to be more overconfident in their own ability to manage their own financial affairs. You're seeing that. They're stating that they intend not to seek advice and they intend not to follow advice. And they're turning a lot more to something that Kelly mentioned earlier, influencers. They're getting advice from people online, you know, Wall Street Bets, for example. And to me, that's very dangerous. So that, you know, you have no idea who you're listening to, and you have no idea what the motives of the person who providing you the advice to buy this cryptocurrency or that stock. And so I think the challenge with a lot of people, and it's more about being on social media and overconfident than age, is to find ways to get people to talk to trained professionals as opposed to getting information on anonymous sources on the internet.
Thank you so much, and that was very timely. Kelly, not to steal from your time, but can I add that while you answer the generational question, we're going to wrap with a call to action. Can you, in your answer, and then we'll go back to Yanni and then David,
Perfect.
Say one call to action that you want people on the call to do?
Yeah, perfect. And in answering this question, you know, I think of any generation, but especially of youth, I don't know who the quote's from, but it's like, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. And that goes back to what David was saying too. We know how to exercise, we know how to eat better. It's like, but if we don't feel that we're worthy and deserving of doing that, if there's generational or cultural issues, of what money means to you. You're not even going to talk about the subject. And then, of course, there's the neuroscience behind it. Connecting to your future self. When you're 18, why would you delay gratification for a 65-year-old? You don't know that person. Your brain can't even connect with them. David and I have had a lot of these discussions, and MoneyWise goes a lot into the neuroscience of how do you connect with that future self, regardless if you're 18 or 58. It's a challenge for all of us. So call to action for us is definitely reach out, consume some of our material. We'd love to show you a demo and show you how this can work for your workplace, make happier, healthier employees.
That's okay. We'll go with Yanni. Call to action. Quick.
Yes, very quickly. I think many of you that are attending the webinar today can play a key role in your interactions, both as leaders and employees in your organizations. So you're perfectly positioned to champion the importance of financial wellness in the workplace and to help people in your organization to feel more in control of their money and increase their overall well-being. So we encourage you to visit our web resource on canada.ca, where you'll find the information and resources to help get you started or build upon your financial wellness journey.
Amazing. And make sure you're clicking on the links in the chat, connect with our experts. David, you're save the best for last.
Or save the last for last anyway. I think it's apocryphal, but one definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And I think for a generation or more, we've been trying the same approaches to improving financial well-being, and it hasn't helped. And that's why I like new approaches like FCAC is following, and MoneyWise Workplaces. These are new approaches, and they're founded in a deeper understanding of how we make financial decisions. And so I'm more optimistic to the extent that we try these new approaches that are really founded on knowledge of behavior, rather than assuming that the approaches of the last century were going to enhance financial well-being. To me, that financial well-being is the most important outcome that we can be focused on.
Amazing. So we've come to the end of our program. Make sure that you're in the chat getting the information for David, Yanni, and Kelly. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to do this information session and educate people. I wish we did more of this, but it's a dream of mine to see the topic being financial wellness and it being well attended. The average out of 5 was about 7.5 on how important financial wellness is. So I would safely say it's an important topic to be addressing. Thank you all so much. You will get a recording. Angela Champ will get back to you because there's a question about languages, translation, and stuff like that that we will take offline. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Angela, Kelly, David, Yanni. Awesome day. Thank you so much. Okay, bye now.